You're now listening to the Thousand Story Podcast, presented by Thousand Story.
Did you create this music yourself?
Yes,
Yeah, we did.
That's so cute.
No.
It's like the perfect opening. You know what? This should be like
It is.
This sounds like a children's show theme song.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, wow, they really had to be creative here.
You know, that's what we do.
So, I don't know if many podcasts have like this long of a theme song.
But hey, we do.
Yeah, I don't even think that they have I feel like I don't hear songs.
But that's why
You're right.
we're breaking the mold.
Yeah.
We're reshaping the mold.
This is the show.
Yeah. So, for all those listening, welcome
love
to the
it.
Thousand Story Podcast. We are your hosts, Najee.
And Luis.
And today we have our lovely resident guest, Jasmine Collier. I hope I said your last name right. I really do, because
Yes,
I
you
always
did.
Perfect.
But she's an artist manager / tour manager /
Yes.
ex-entertainment journalist / ex-wardrobe styler. Basically been in the business for a second.
For
Grew
a
up from-
solid minute.
Like a minute. I mean, she's not like, she's still in her 20s.
No.
Like, chill,
She's
like,
chilling.
chill.
She's killing it.
But grew up in Japan and California. Now working with Esther and Joyce Rice. So what is up,
Yeah.
Jasmine?
Give it up.
for her.
Thank you. Than's for having me. Oh my God, these sounds. This is like no other podcast. I love it.
Yeah,
We have our own studio audience. All right. I don't know what you're talking about. Sounds.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. You guys know a lot about me already. That was intense.
Yeah.
I just forgot about some of that stuff.
Wow. We got to do homework. We got to do homework.
Research.
Yeah.
Okay, I
love
do
that.
have a quick question though. Was Japan cool?
Japan was cool. There's like so many different stages of it. So it's like I was born there, lived there for maybe 6 months to a year, like less than that, and then
That's cool.
had gone back every year throughout my childhood, and then recently, like 3 or 4 years ago, lived there in my adult life for
That's
a year
cool.
too.
Got it.
So I've experienced it at like all different parts of my
That's
life.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I really want to go. I think this is our dream.
That's our passion.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's our
it's my
passion.
dream. It's been
Yeah.
my dream since I was a
I've
wee
always
little
wanted
one. A wee little boy.
Yeah. You know, the most we have is
It's the best.
yeah. The food.
What's your favorite part of Japan?
I mean, I guess it's the food, but it's also just how different it is than here.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's just insane. Like the level of customer service, just the meticulousness. Like literally, if it's raining, every shop, like no matter if it's food or clothing store or whatever, will wrap up your whatever you bought in a bag, but then also in a waterproof bag around it, and then they'll like walk you out to the front
What?
door and like bow.
That's so
it's just like
sweet.
it's so intense. And then like now we have like Apple Pay or like Touch Pay or whatever. Like they've had that for like 10 or 15 years. Like you used
You're
to just
kidding me.
no, yeah, it's like such an old thing for them. And they have like vending machines, but that actually have hot stuff. So like ramen vending machines or like pot stickers in the vending machine. Like
Man.
literally like crazy stuff like that. Ice
So you're
cream in the
living
vending machine.
15 years in the future when you're in
Pretty
Japan,
much.
basically.
In the year
yeah.
3000.
I always tell people like what's in Japan now will be here in the States in like 10 to 15 years.
That's so crazy.
Slow,
so I
much
wonder
slower.
why. Like, I mean, I feel like they're the tech powerhouse.
Yeah, I agree.
So why do they still view, Silicon Valley as like the? Because I guess with software.
I don't know.
I don't know. That's really weird, though.
I mean, but there's
I
several,
feel like their
Silicon Valleys.
ideas are like, I just feel like they execute their ideas quicker. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is that a work ethic thing?
I feel like it is. Honestly, that's such a good point because a lot of the ideas or a lot of the things that they've already executed, it's not like people here haven't thought of them. I think they're just trying to figure out how to do it. And I feel like everyone there is working day in and day out. Like another thing
Yeah.
about their culture is that or about my culture is that
No affiliation.
is that like I always am like, oh wait, I forget. Is that their like working culture is so insane. Like they have rooms to sleep in the offices because they expect you to sometimes sleep overnight and continue working.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? It's expected of you.
I've heard a story. I've heard tale that if you fall asleep at your desk, that's actually seen as a good thing. Like they're like, you worked so hard that you worked yourself to sleep, and now you're sitting at your desk sleeping. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's why they have the sleeping rooms, because they're like, wow, like you're just such a good worker. Like good worker. Like you're just exhausted, like you should be.
That's
like
so
that's
funny.
literally.
If they've instilled that in America, like I feel like people would just be sleeping. I'd just be like, yeah, I've been working so hard. Like
you don't even
taking
know.
naps all day.
Yeah, no, seriously. I feel like it's after working there and then coming here, I'm like, dang, like, yeah, we are kind of lazy. Like just compared to them.
Yeah,
it's exacerbated by like the LA lifestyle, like California lifestyle, because like LA versus New York. New York is hustle bustle
all the time.
LA's like, what's there, man?
Whenever we get there,
it's all good.
Yeah, bro.
What happened?
I just feel like it's on another level over there in every way.
Oh gosh. So I gotta segue into our next thing here. As a manager, as a kind of manager and tour manager, which are two separate jobs. How has your I guess upbringing, or like kind of being and seeing both different vibes affected how you approach like your relationships with who you work with? So like, for example, with like Esta, like do you kind of approach it in more of a lax manner because he's kind of based out of California, but like Joyce, I know she lives in California too, but because you guys kind of grew up together, and you know how that kind of works and how that lifestyle works, is it easier to kind of go in like work mode with Joyce, or like is it kind of interchangeable for you?
Oh, that's like I never thought about that. I mean, I feel like, and I've talked about this before, I feel like because both of them were friends prior, it's like a relaxed environment, but it's also easier for me to be very honest and be like very firm, like when the time, when I need to be. But yeah, like I've been friends with Joyce since, I don't know, like grade school. Yeah. Whereas like I became friends with Esta more in college, but still like I feel like I'm very close to both of them. So I'm able to just be very, for the most part, relaxed until, until I don't know. I can't even think of an example, but for the most part, it's relaxed. For the most part, it's relaxed. But yeah, I don't think like location has anything to do with it. But yeah,
it's really interesting that you're talking about honesty, because I feel like that's something that's really hard to get in this industry.
Oh my God.
Because so many people are like very yes type, you know what I mean, like yes person, yes people thank you, yes person. But they really want to like almost like coddle the artist, and nobody has. I feel like there are certain managers who haven't built a level of like comfortability with their clients, I suppose, right? Where it feels like it's a friendship mentality. That allows them the room to speak freely and to be like, no, I don't think we should do that. I feel like that idea is trash. Like, no offense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
like,
I totally understand that. I feel like for me, it's a personality thing. Like I will be like that with anyone because I'm a Leo. I'm like very outspoken.
Same.
I will just tell you what's on my mind all the times. Yeah. Like that goes for even, non-working friendships and relationships. But I think that you have to just have that point, because there's been times where I've had discussion with Joyce, like, since we are friends, we both may take something, personal, like, oh, like that hurt. Like you're trying to say that, you didn't like this, or you don't like this photo of me, or like, oh, you're trying to say that I'm not working. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It feels like that. But then I try to kind of restructure my thinking, and me and her have also talked too about how like, it's not personal. At the end of the day, like, we can separate the business and the personal. And if I'm telling you, hey, like, this is not a flattering photo, or like, I don't like this song, or I don't, it's only because I'm trying to consider your best interests, and and we shouldn't take that to heart. And I feel like she gets that, and I feel like Frances gets that as well, because it's like, when you're an artist and you're creating, of course you're going to be very sensitive, but 100%. You want to have people that you trust. I think that's the biggest thing. And I feel like that's why, like, like egos and like all of that can come into play. And that's why for maybe some managers, it's really difficult for them to voice like, oh, we can't upset, artist ABC. And it's like, no, like, if you don't tell them, then I feel like for me, it's more upsetting when later, like, they go and do something and then people are like, oh, that was a bad look. Like, where was their team? Like, where was their, and I'd rather just be like,
do this?
I feel like I've said that too so many times, like, about artists. I'm like, who in their team thought this was a good idea?
Who let you wear that, or who let you sing that in good conscience?
Exactly.
Like, you remember when Fergie, I think we were watching the other day, Fergie did like the national anthem. It was like a year back, I think.
I remember that.
And I was just sitting there like, who let her?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You cannot have yes men around you like that. Like, it's bad. I mean, and there's something to say about, like, having chemistry with the people you work with. And obviously, like, having a team
for sure
that's important, like, that you trust and that you vibe with. But, like, for me as an artist, I need it kind of, the word of the day, behooves me.
That was the word of last season. Behooves.
It behooves me as an artist to find my team. Yeah, we're out here educated. We're educating the people.
I love that word of the day. I would have never ever heard that.
But it behooves us to have a team that is not filled with yes men, and it's filled with people that obviously have our best interests at heart, and that we get along with, and that we flow with and work with, but also know when to just be like, nah, dog, like, that's not it. Like, it's just.
That's also up to the artist, though, because, like, I don't know if you watched the the Queen movie.
I haven't seen it.
Bohemian Rhapsody. Did you watch it?
No, but I've been hearing really good things about it.
It's a really good movie, but I mean, not that even it's a spoiler alert, because it's history, But he ended Freddie Mercury, like, really fell into the whole yes men mentality. I mean, he started surrounding himself with people that were just very much like, yeah, Freddie, like, all about you, Freddie. Whatever you need, Freddie, like, think about yourself instead of the band or like all this stuff. And it's so easy to get caught up in that, because, like, you're hearing what you want to hear, And even at one point in the movie, he even goes, when he gets, like the other band, because he does a solo career. We all know that.
Yep.
But and during his solo career, he goes, the one thing that I hated about, he even says it in the movie, is that I told them to do things and they did everything that I wanted, and it was trash because there was no pushback, there was no rewrites, there were no I guess, like, personality struggles that, like, really helped create, like, really good music in the end.
That's so true. I mean, I always tell even if it's not an artist that I manage, but if I'm giving someone criticism and they don't like it, I'm like, hey, like, just be happy that I'm willing to be this honest with you. And like, one of my mentors who manages a bigger artist tells me all the time, like, I have to tell him, like, this song, I'm not feeling it. Or like, like, that campaign is corny. Like, I don't want to do that, or I don't feel like you should do that. And he told me, like, it's okay. Sometimes the artist will be like, well, I'm still going to do it, or I like it, so I'm going to do it. And that's fine. But I feel like it's all a part of the process and the learning experience. And like, maybe it does work out. Maybe the manager just had, maybe like the taste just wasn't, it was just different, or maybe it doesn't work out and they're like, I'm going to consider what you say a little more often, like, I feel like it's just like a trust thing. But I definitely think having someone who's overly honest, or just at least honest, opposed to having someone who's going to cater to you is, better for your career. So
1,000,000%.
Yeah. It seems like that sort of chemistry is, like, super important. Because how difficult is it to find that chemistry? Have you found, I guess, like, for yourself? Because, I mean, like, you're working with Esta and Joyce, but I'm sure, like, you've talked to other artists and, have considered, maybe, I don't know, managing other artists, but, like, how difficult?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's so crazy because actually, a lot of people have asked me, to join their team, or they tell me like they want a manager. And it's like, it's so, it's insane. Like when I hear all these people tell me the hardest thing of my career is finding the right manager. Like it's because you could have it all. Like you could have, you know, whatever, the look, the talent, like whatever you need. You maybe even have like the backing from like a label and the money, but like if you don't have a good like manager and like a good solid team, I just feel like you can get lost very quickly. So yeah, a lot of people have asked me, hey, you know, I'm looking for a manager. Are you open to accepting clients? But I always tell myself I have to really, really, really believe in the music. Like not just be like, this looks like it can make some money. Like I'm in. Because there's people who have already been kind of established and been like, hey, do you want to be a part of my team? Right. And probably if I hopped in, like, you know, they already have a name. Like it might not be as hard as trying to develop someone from the ground up. But it's like, if I'm not in love with the product, then I just feel like, am I doing, it's like an injustice to like everyone. Like, what, you know, it's like a waste of my time. And I don't want to try to be convincing other people that this is great if I don't even think it's great. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
for sure.
I feel like that's the biggest thing. And that is kind of why so far I haven't taken on anyone else, just because, you know, these people are my friends, but I was also like a fan before I was even working with them, you know, like I had believed in it before. And I just feel like some other people that may contact me, like I may think they're good, but like I said, I want to love it. I want to be like, yes, I can sell this to anyone. Like I can convince other people that this is great. Yeah. So yeah, I just feel like that's really important. And finding someone who's down to do that for you, and sometimes for a while do that for you for free, is like really difficult. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Very true.
Very, very true. I mean, speaking of, you know, with Monty and myself, Monty being, if you remember him from last season,
Monty
Montali, who's actually in the background right now, but you know, chilling out, being the
down there doing some stuff.
But like you know, him reaching out was just out of him being a fan, you know, and that was dope because I was actually in the middle of trying to find different managers. Like I was like I wasn't juggling managers. I didn't sign with anybody, but I was just talking and getting help from like 3 or 4 different people. And the thing is, it's like, for me, the most important thing was making sure, one, that they took my job as seriously as I took my job. So like when I was just by myself, you know, being an artist / your own manager is intense. Like it's so, because you don't know what to do. You're incredibly overwhelmed, but you're just trying to get it done as much as you can. And you know, obviously you have your own best interests at heart, but at the end of the day, you know, when you need somebody to take that over, you know, you want to make sure that they're actually prioritizing you. Like you don't want to get slept on by your own team.
Yes.
So, you know, I found that, you know, when I was getting help from other people, you know, there was kind of like, it was kind of like dating, honestly. Like you really had to go through and just vibe people out and see how they worked, how they felt, and like how important they took you. And, you know, if you guys just clicked in general, because there are some people that I clicked with, but at the same time, they just weren't quite there on the professional scale. Like, you know, like they were good and we were like dope together, but like it was just too buddy. And they like at the end of the day, you know, they were taking more, or like their supposed cut of things was going to be more than they were actually doing, and it was just like it wasn't a match for me. Like, so I found it was really, really important just to kind of suss people out and take that time to like just know what you need out of a manager. Because if you go into it just blind, you're gonna have you could have a lucky time. You know, it's not like it's gonna be a bad time the first time around, but you know, definitely go into it just with the mindset of having a priority list for yourself and for them and what you need from them. And that is how you're going to get ultimately like the best teammate, because you know exactly what you need out of them and what you need out of yourself to make that kind of work.
I almost feel bad for like artists who just like blow up like overnight and don't have a manager,
and then they got like 50 people hitting them up.
And not only that, but then they're like making a ton of money, and then it's like, how do you differentiate the people that are just there for the money and the people that are there who actually care? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's very easy to hop onto something that's already established, but to really work with the artists from the ground up and like I said, for free for a while, sometimes it's like you have to really love it, and you really have to just have a lot of heart with it. And Yeah. So there was one other thing that you were saying that I agreed with, but I forgot. So
I said a lot of things. Sorry, I'm passionate. It's all good. It's all good.
Teaming with passion.
I actually had a question for you. So, like, you know, me, I'm a very goal-oriented kind of guy. Like, I love setting goals and plans, and Monty will attest to this. I'm a planner.
Yeah.
I'm planner.
I've seen the calendars.
I've seen the calendars.
The
no,
calendars.
he says calendars. Like, you know, I love just a good, meticulous plan. I mean, but I also love freeform and like free-flowing things. So, like, I kind of plan around things being flexible and malleable. But, you know, how important to you is like setting goals for yourself, for your team, for your artists? Like, for me, I find like just the concept of just writing down like 2019 goals, or like writing down like your 5-year plan really helps solidify, you know, one, the morale of the team, but two, just like the vision and how you guys actually go about executing that, because there's always something to go back to. Or like, that's just me, but do you do that with any of the artists that you work with? Like, do you end up like writing out goals for each other or like the team in general?
So I will say, like, I feel like I'm extremely organized and I'm very planned and I'm very goal oriented. But I will say, just to be completely honest, and like just for anyone who's listening who may have the same problem, is sometimes when I guess, you know, I consider short-term and long-term goals, but sometimes when I am writing down and trying to, you know, imagine up these long-term goals, I look at them and I get intimidated, or I get a little bit, you know, just taken aback, and I'm like, oh my God, like, can I do this? Or if something kind of goes off track, then I get really discouraged, and I'm like, oh my God, this is not going according to my plan, because since I'm so black and white sometimes, I'm like, this is how it's going to go. This is how I'm going to get there. This is how I'm going to do it. And sometimes it's like, oh, road bump, like that didn't work, or like roadblock, that's actually going to cost this much more than you expected, or, oh, you know, this person is now sick, so like now we can't do this, and that's going to affect this. Like, then I start getting sometimes a little bit discouraged, because I'm like, oh my God, my plan's not working. Right. What am I, you know? And I quickly get it back together because I'm a Leo, but I just feel like sometimes that does throw me off, just to be honest. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people kind of go through, but I'm realizing that sometimes you just have to go with the journey and the flow that you know, is kind of planned out for you, and that sometimes going by the book and like by your exact plan, like sometimes it doesn't work. And that's been, I feel like in 2018, that was one of the hardest realizations for me, is like, shit doesn't always go the way that you want it, Jasmine. And you have to understand, like, even if I get to the goal, if I get there a different way, I'm like, well, why couldn't it be like the way that I wanted? Like, why couldn't it be like A, B, C, D goal? Like, why did it have to be like G, F, Z, L, like all over the place? And it like finally got to the goal, but it's so different than I expected. Like, you know, how I was going to get there. So that is one thing I will say. Very, very planned and like detail oriented. But I do find myself getting a little bit thrown off when, you know, when I get some curveballs. But like I said, I always bounce back. But
Leos.
It is something that I'm working on.
That's one of the things. Like, I just want to touch on adaptability. I mean, I feel like that as a man, especially as a tour manager, that's probably like one of the biggest things. Because like even in my own life, because I've had to book my own shows, and it is just the biggest headache in the world to just book a show, because like sometimes like booking agents aren't like getting back to you, or like if you're just talking straight to the venue, like they have so much stuff going on that, like, you know, booking is probably falling on some guy who's like talking to 7 million bands and artists, you know, at the same time, trying to like just figure out their own schedule. How do you adapt, I guess, in that space? Because like that to me is like one of the most chaotic, outside of being like an artist manager, because as far as a tour goes, I mean, it's based on like a timeline. You're traveling from one space to another, you know what I mean? Trying to make sense of it all without spending an exorbitant amount. Exorbitant. Thank you. Exorbitant amounts of money. You know what I mean? Trying to make sense of I don't know. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a lot of the reason I love it. Like me and so many other managers always talk about this. They're like, you like going on the road? Like, God bless you. Like, I hate it. I need to stay off the road. Like, there's no way. Like, oh, talking to agents, forget about it. Like, people really don't like it, and I 100% understand why. But there's something, I guess, within me that just really likes it. I think problem solving is a very big part of tour managing.
Yeah.
Just someone the other day, they were asking me, they're like, aren't you so excited? And I'm like, I'm really excited because I'm about to actually go on tour with Kiana Lede, who's opening up for LMA.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Hey, that's super cool.
Yeah, that'll be one of, it is going to be like the biggest tour that I've tour managed this far, but just someone asked me like, are you excited? I'm like, I'm super excited. And I was like, but I'm a little nervous. And they're like, nervous? Like, what could you be nervous about? That's so cool. You're going to go to this place. And I'm like, yeah, but like, you don't understand. Like, there's a lot of stuff you have to consider here. Like, you know, like, yeah, like I went on a tour that was extremely smaller than this, and, you know, just smaller artists, like only on the West Coast, less dates, smaller budget, but like still the most unexpected things will come up, and you're just like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? You know? So with this, I'm just like, okay, more money involved, more people involved, like bigger talent involved. Like, there are times where I'm like worried, but I feel like, you know, when things happen, you just got to get it together. Like, you literally just got to not freak out, because you're also kind of the voice and the stability for the band and the talent and whoever else is traveling. And so I feel like that makes me feel good, knowing that I can kind of try to get things in order and make sure everyone's happy. I feel like I'm a people pleaser, and I like to see people happy. I like to make people happy. So like, knowing like my sole job on tour is to literally keep these 5 other people happy and in time for soundcheck every day. It's like, I love it, you know?
Yeah.
But I can understand for other people, they're like, no, I can't do that. Like, I don't want to babysit. Like, I can't, you know, but for me, it's more so just like, if I need to, you know, I don't know, if the artist wants this and that's what's going to make them happy and that's what's going to make them put on this great show for these 1,000 people that have been waiting to see them for months, then I want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So yeah, I mean, I really do like it, but I do feel like there are challenges when it comes to that, for sure.
So how would you go about prepping for a tour versus like an artist, for example? I know for me, in my case, like it's kind of I've had to develop the kind of process and procedure for the whole thing, you know, and the formula coming, you know, down to the writer, down to like just like how we kind of get stuff in and out, equipment and whatnot. But like for me, I know mentally, like I have to wind down, like for the 3 days prior to a show, like I'm drinking like water straight, like I'm barely like no cheeses or anything like that. I'm like I'm consciously putting myself in a headspace where I gotta like focus. I'm just like, I'm not making music. Like I have to be in an entirely different headspace. And then when like, you know, getting up to the point like the day before, I'm guaranteed like me and Madi actually recently found this place in New York. It was like a Nap York. Because I've really gotten into, you know, like doing like a nap before the show, like a calm, relaxing, spa-esque nap, like in a nap pod. Like
that's awesome.
And they're dope. They're fun. Like for me, it's just like that process is so necessary. But like, what are some processes like for you? What is it like for you as a tour manager? Like, what do you have to go through?
It's so interesting that you asked me that, because I've actually gone through many phases of it. So like my first tour ever was actually like a pretty nice tour, but like just prepping for that, there was no prep. I was like, yes, I'm going on tour. Mom, I get to go to this city and this city, and then we get to go here and here, and I cannot wait. Like, I was just so excited. Like, my prepping was just, you know, okay, making sure we have hotel confirmations and making sure that I make itineraries. Like, I was not really prepared. So then and especially like with my mental and everything, like I wasn't And I was also going through a breakup literally like a few months before that. So I was not prepared. So I was just thinking, this is like a big field trip with all my friends, because it was with a bunch of artists that were my friends. So I was like, this is going to be so fun. And it was fun. It was literally amazing. But I was also like, oh my God, like, this is like, this can be really lonely. Like, oh, I didn't like mentally prepare for this. Or like, oh, I thought I was going to love being around everyone 24/7, but I actually want 5 minutes to myself. Or, oh, like I feel super lethargic and tired because I ate whatever I wanted before I came here. And on this trip, every time we stop at the gas station, I'm eating whatever I want. So I literally feel crappy every day at the same time, you know, like things like that. So I noticed. So then I was like, okay. So then like I did my next tour, which was super DIY. And that I was like trying to prep for it a little more, but same thing, like budget was lower than that first tour. So it's like, yep, sometimes we're going to have to eat, you know, whatever, literally whatever we can find. So same thing, like just not feeling super like, you know, alert and just, you know, and so with this tour, it's like when I found out I was going on it, maybe a month and a half ago, I was like all stops. Like I got a trainer. I started like doing everything. I started doing sound baths. Like I was like, I'm going to be mentally prepared, because this is very long. This is like almost 2 months, and it's with like 3 traveling parties. And like, you know, like I said, there's a lot more than I've ever done for managing with this. So I, you know, like started meal prepping, and then I started going to the trainer, and then I was like, another trainer that is my friend was like, oh, do you want to train with me on the days you're not with that trainer? I was like, yep. So then I was doing like 5 days. So then you know, and then I've been like just getting things for the tour, like things that we could work out with on tour, but like that are really easy. So just like elastic bands or jump ropes, like all kinds of stuff. I'm like, I'm not going to be feeling tired and like sad and like lonely on this tour. Like I'm gonna make it good. I'm gonna feel good. I'm gonna have energy. I'm gonna be pleasant to work with. I'm gonna make sure everyone's in a good mood. I mean, of course I can only control myself, but like if we're all doing this together, you know. And same thing with the artist. Like she's been working out with me. She gets like meal plans delivered to her. Like she's in the like right headspace for it, because people don't understand, like it's not a, you know, 2, 3, 4 month field trip. It's literally draining and exhausting. Yeah. Even if you're not the artist, like for the artist, it's the most, obviously, because you're, you know, like vocally and just like performance wise, you know, mentally. But even just for everyone, it's like that much traveling, living, like unpacking your suitcase and literally packing it up a few hours later. Just like you're constantly seeing all different people. Like every venue, there's a new sound guy, there's a new, you know, production manager, and you have to do the same thing every night. So it's very like, it can be exhausting. And then of course, like, you know, if you have a pet, or if you're in a relationship, or if you have kids, like some of the people that are going with us, like, you know, they're married and they have kids, like it can be lonely in that way. So you have to just really mentally be in a good space and just keep positive and like not let things get to you, like the jet lag, like all that. So I really think that like, and jet lag can even just change your mood. Like, oh, like I can't like sleep properly because of jet lag, and then you're cranky, and then that makes you like, and then you go to another place and you can't catch up, and then you get sick. Like it literally, you have to just be on it. So that's one thing. That's one thing I've learned over the course of touring. I'm like, nope, like right before tour, like I can't do anything crazy. I need to rest. I need to be in the right mental space. Like my bag, just like that I bring on the plane, is insane. Like I have 4 different, what are those things? Like eye covers. I have like a heated scented eye cover that I put under that eye cover. I have lavender spray. Amazing. I have so many packs of emergency. I have like painkillers because sometimes I just need to pop them. Like I have everything. Yeah, seriously. Shit just hurts. I have everything in my bag, and it's like people are always like, what's in here? I'm like, my life.
Everything.
Like, my house. I try to be very prepared. Seriously. Yeah. I just try to bring a mini version of everything. Like, so yes, to answer your question, that's my long answer, but that is how I kind of handle that. And I feel like with this tour, I'm trying to handle it, you know, like I'm just trying to move cautiously, because I know that, it could be a lot. It's a long time.
Yeah.
So.
And so this tour you're doing, they have a full band, right? There is a full band.
So the headliner is May, and she has a full band.
Right.
And then Kiana and Lucky Day actually both have, I think, guitar players and keys. I'm pretty sure that's what he has too, but that's what we have. Yeah. So it's, partially, but I think LMA has a full band.
Got it. Like, and how is it? I mean, like, okay, so when you're working with like Francis, for example, clearly he doesn't really need a band. He's a DJ.
He's a DJ. Yeah.
Right. There's a kind of a different. He is his band.
He is the band.
Exactly.
But like in that situation versus something like Joyce, where she like her kind of experience it's dependent on a band. What do you find of the challenges in between like having a band and not having a band?
Yeah. You know what? It's such an interesting. Because I've seen people kill it with the DJ. Like the DJ adds so much for them. Like I don't know. They just it may be their personal energy or just like their stage presence. Like, and then some people tell me like, oh, I don't want to have a band because I feel like it like drowns me out. Like I want to be the center, But for Joyce, I feel like a band really complements her. It just works out better for us, and I feel like it really just adds to her show. When we have done DJ sets, we try to have like dancers or like another element incorporated to kind of like make it feel like a full-on production. But yeah, I feel like for her a band works, but like I'm saying, I've seen artists where I'm like, dang, that was just a DJ. They could just have like, I guess, amazing tracks,
right,
like backing tracks, but like yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh, they killed it with the DJ, So it really just depends on what kind of artist you are. But specifically for Joyce, I really feel like a band works, and like a full band. Like when we've had like a 5 or 6 piece band, like that just sounds amazing.
Do you have to get new musicians every time, or are there like regular artists that she calls upon, I guess, or that you call upon?
Yeah, I mean, I have an MD that I pretty much use for everything unless he's touring. Sometimes, or like he's often touring, but for the most part, when we've needed him on stuff, he's there. And so he's really cool. And we try to use most of the same people, but like I said, because this is LA and like everyone's always touring and has gigs, sometimes we have to swap out people. But I like to use, for the most part, the same people because I feel comfortable with them. I can trust them. Right. We have like, just like that agreement, like
the chemistry
that like it'll work well together. So I like to use the same people. But I'm always open. So I'm always like looking for, if I see like, oh man, this is a cool bass player, like I'll follow them. You know what I mean? Because you never know when you're going to meet someone. Yeah, you never know. So always looking for live musicians.
If everybody's in the market, hit her up.
Yes.
But
always.
It's interesting though, because like for me, as the artist and trying to figure out what, as far as Najee goes, because there may be different projects in the future, but right now for myself, it depends on the venue, depends on what the audience is going to be like, but like I've always like tried to see what it feels like just doing a solo show, because like I kind of do this combination, solo act / DJ / everything, and that has been helpful and hurtful in many cases. It's when you're doing everything yourself, it's a lot of work.
Right,
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I also forgot that like yes, it can be. It can work out sometimes if you play instruments. That's one thing, like Joyce is taking, piano lessons. We're trying to get her in there, but you play instruments, and other artists I know, like they play like keys and they play guitar. So like, they can really create a lot out of their own show, and it feels really personal. It feels really intimate. So if you have that ability, then yeah, I feel like that's great. But like you were saying, yes, it can drain you out because you're like, okay, or like, even like I've seen, Masego is really good at doing it, but kind of using that, what is that thing called? The pad, like, and he just creates his own show up there.
Oh, the octopad.
Yeah. So,
like a looper,
no, I've seen it.
Yeah, like a looper. Yeah. So I feel like that can also be really entertaining too, and can save you a lot of money on booking musicians if that is something that you're able to do. So yes, I I get it, but it can be tiring because it's like you have no break, you know? Even even those little few minutes when the artist is like, oh, I want to introduce you to my band, and like having each, band member do a solo, that's like breathing time. Really not have to like talk and have to, perform. So I feel like, I can imagine doing it by yourself. Everything, every element,
it's a
can
lot.
be exhausting.
But, especially because I come from a band background, like, when being a drummer, it's just kind of second nature for me to riff off of other people. And it's infinitely harder, especially for like artists that are just starting to kind of find that same energy when they wish they had the band or like they just had the backing track. Like, I feel like the backing track is such a slippery slope because people can rely on it too easily. But also at the same time, it's like, if it's the only thing you have, how do you make that energy still apparent with just that little bit?
Right.
So we end up getting more creative as a result. Because like for me, I was like, I don't want to just go up there with a backing track, sing a song, and then leave. That shit's lame. But but if it's the only thing I have, I'm gonna make sure I can twist some knobs and interact with the crowd and like make people engage. And I feel like that's one of the key points of having a band is like this really engagement. It's on stage, but it allows you to easier engage with the people as well because you have that moment to breathe and like interact and just like pause and reflect. I mean, like, have you experienced that, Louis?
No, what's really interesting is with bands is I feel like if you have the same people in the band, like the audience really start, like the fans really start following those people as well. Because they help tell the story of, they help give I guess a little insight into the lifestyle of the artist, like who they're hanging out with, you know what I mean? What kind of people they surround themselves with. And I always found that interesting. Like I always love like Mac DeMarco has always been one of my favorite artists. And he, like Tame Impala, and I've started following like the people that they bring along on tour with them. And, they each have their own project and they're all super interesting. And it's just a great way to introduce people to new music. And I don't know. I really love that. But I felt the same way because I've only been in band settings. Like I've never, even the music that I do now, I'm like, I can't do it with just like
I need a band.
I need a band. I need a live band. There's no other way to reproduce it. My mind just doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? I can't just be like, I'm gonna just DJ this stuff. But I can't. It's impossible for me.
I feel you. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everyone has preference, and I feel like whatever you're comfortable with usually works out, the best. And like for my art, well, I mean, like as a DJ, but for a producer DJ, but for Joyce, a band has always been her choice. That's always been her pick. So
makes sense. For Joyce, how have you guys kind of navigated, opening versus headlining? Like, how have you mapped any of that out? Like when to open versus when to like try and go for a headlining show? Like like what's that whole process like?
So that's actually it's a very sometimes you have to really sit down and think and analyze that type of thing because, for example, last year we didn't tour almost at all besides the first month, which was a tour that we had already planned in 2017, but we didn't tour at all because we were trying to just work on music. But some of the offers that we were getting to open for people, we had to just really weigh it out. Like, is this going to be beneficial for us? Like a lot of times when you're opening, you have to have tour support, and you don't get tour support unless you have a label because, like the rate that they have for an opener will just be pretty low. So it's like, okay. And as an independent artist, like I said, you don't have tour support because you're not signed. So you have to think like, can I personally take out X amount of dollars to go open for this person? Is it going to be beneficial for me? Is there going to be some gain from it? And I think, so far we have not really gotten that. Like if, for example, if we got asked to open for like the internet or something, that would be totally, that would be something that I feel like would make sense. Like I would want to make it happen for sure. But I feel like you have to just be very wise and careful about that because, I see some people who wait to tour for a long time and they're still successful when they tour later. But I know other people who are like, I just have to tour. Like I need to hop whatever offer I get, like I'm hopping on it. And I just feel like, it could if it's not beneficial and you end up, putting in a lot of your personal money as the end artist, at least, then, it could be a waste.
Yeah. And I feel
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, so yeah, I feel like you weigh it out. And even with artists, I feel like sometimes they all have an ego. Like, I don't want to open for that person. Like, what? Like, I'm bigger, but it's like, sometimes it's like, no, you need to do it because this is going to be a good look. Like, imagine having your fan base plus their fan base be in love with you. Like, it'll be a good look, you know? So we're still kind of trying to figure that out. In terms of opening, we haven't gotten any immediate offers from artists that we feel like fits. Also because Joyce, we don't have an agent, so like everything's pretty much freelance. So and it's something. I mean, hey, keep your 10% if you can. But yeah, in terms of headlining, like if there are headlining opportunities, we usually take them because of course, I feel like most artists want to do that.
Right.
But yeah, I don't have like a set plan for it yet. We've been really just trying to get this music together. And then when the music was together, I was going to kind of sit down and map out the touring, the routing. But it's crazy because most of our offers come from international at this point. So...
Would there be an instance, because obviously like opening, you also have to think about like the artist that you're opening for, because I've seen acts that have opened, like I saw Jordan Rockeye last year in Philly, and I think Dunya, thank you, I forget. Yeah, but she opened for him and it was just the strangest. I was like, the dynamic between their music was just not like, and I think she's dope and I think he's dope, but in a same like her opening for him, it was just not the right setup for his music. It was not the right environment for her music. You know what I mean? Because she was playing to an audience who is coming to hear Jordan Rockeye, which is just like jazzy, soulful, neo soul type music, and she's like very chill, like lo-fi. So it was just, that was like super interesting. But I feel like, can you like be opening and headlining your own tour and then also opening on other people's shows like during your headline tour? Is that an option?
You can. I feel like people do that. Like I've seen artists who like clearly the flyer will come out and it'll be like, so-and-so. And then with the asterisks are, this opener or whatever. And then that opener will kind of post and create their own flyer and be like, this is my tour routing. And it'll be, some one-off days maybe that they're getting in between that. And then the supporting days. So I feel like, you can simultaneously do that. I guess it just wouldn't be, it's all kind of like how you set it up and how you word it. So like a lot of people will be like, oh, so-and-so is going on tour. And it's like, oh my God, cool. But like some of those dates may be a part of another larger artist tour. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I feel like there's nothing wrong with that at all. So, yeah, I hope that answers
the question.
No, yeah, definitely.
So I guess from the manager point of view, booking, since like just the whole concept of like being booked or getting booking tends to be a pretty straightforward process, because you mentioned like the 10%. Like, could you explain a little bit what that is? Like, I know what it is, but just so people are aware of like what the whole kind of process is to go from like someone being interested in a show. Like, how does an artist go from making music to being on a stage? At least from a manager's point of view.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that can happen. So, for example, you can have, I've been through all the different ways pretty much. So like you can have a venue hit you up directly and just be like, we love Joyce Rice, like we want to book her at our venue. So then in that sense, you have the booker at the venue directly reaching out to you. So they're not going through an agent, or an agent's not trying to fill a spot at that venue. It's just the venue reaching out to you. So in that sense, then you'll just create your deal with the booker of that venue. So maybe they want to do a door deal. So like a door deal is when they're like, okay, you'll get this % of the door and we'll get this person at the door, and then like they might even be like, oh, and we'll throw in this person in the bar, and you know, that's what you get. But then if, you know, people don't show up, then you're kind of screwed, because it's like, you already told your band how much you're going to pay them. You already paid for flights. You already paid for hotels. So it's like door deals are kind of like, you know, a little risky. But then, you know, the ideal situation would be to get an offer. So it's like, okay, our offer is a flat this much money, and then like a bonus. So maybe they'll start off at a lower offer. So like, okay, we're going to do this much, but you know, the bonus is if you sell 500 tickets, then we give you this, or if you sell out, we'll give you an extra this, you know? So that's that. And that can also happen through an agent. So if you have an agent, usually an agent will reach out to you if they're interested, if they just see your growth, or they're seeing your ticket sales and they're like, how is this person not represented? So, you know, they could just be like, hey, Najee, like, we want to represent you. And when they represent you, you know, the benefit to that is just having access to more shows, because when, who can I think of? Like when, I'm literally like blanking on artists, but anyone, just like, you know, any artist, like say that they're like, okay, you know, we also represent so-and-so, and that person is opening, and they have an opener for every show except Philly. Like, do you want to do it? They're going to go through their clients most likely first. Like they're going to send an internal email and be like, hey guys, we're looking for an opener, music style like this, available this date in this city, you know, do you want to do it? And then, you know, having your, like, if you don't have an agent, how are you going to be, sometimes they will like just cold submit you and be like, oh, I know this one artist, and maybe that artist is at a different agency, or maybe that artist doesn't have an agency. But for the most part, they're going to go internally and be like, okay, who do we have that matches that, you know, because they want to like keep the money within. And with that, it's they'll link you. So, you know, and if the headlining artist, and if everyone agrees the venue and like, okay, we're gonna have this person, then your agent will secure your offer or whatever it is, like whatever the deal is. And then from that offer, the agency will take 10% because they secured it for you. But that doesn't mean that they're going to, you know, book your travel and do all this stuff. They just secure the deal for you. Your team does everything else. And then you pay them, you know, the 10% for getting you the gig.
Wow.
So some people are like, you know, why do I still have to pay my agent this much if they didn't get me this gig? Because some people still will pay their agent off of like gigs that they got for themselves. But the agent will like handle the negotiating. Like when it comes to it, they'll be like, oh, just contact my agent. So the agent will handle the negotiating, even though the deal didn't come through the agent, and then they still take 10%, you know? So it gets a little interesting. So that's why I'm saying, like, when you don't have an agent, you can really be flexible there, and you can negotiate what you want and know, like, okay, if I negotiated $2,000, like I'm getting $2,000. I'm not getting $2,000 minus 10%.
Right.
Yeah. So that is, I feel like, the beauty of even like with people that are being independent, like, you know, like owning their masters, and just, you know, if they release their project on TuneCore, like that's their TuneCore money. Like it's not being filtered through, you know, a label. And so I feel like same thing with Asian, if people can do it. I do think like having an agent is like very helpful and very beneficial, because like I said, there's certain offers and shows that get funneled through them and them only. And, you know, like most likely festivals get funneled through them before they're going to just come to you naturally. So I do see a significance in having one, but you can definitely, you know, if you really do the groundwork, because I've even been in the situation where I hit up venues and I'm like, I want to have a show at your venue. And they're kind of like, what's in it for me? Like you have to really prove to them, you have to show them hard ticket sales.
Yes.
You have to show them like, okay, I'm trying to create my own tour. This is my routing.
Right.
And most of those times, like they're taking a chance. So they'll do like a door deal, like I was mentioning.
Right.
But, you know, if they maybe are like, oh, I've heard of you, or actually, oh, I like you, or I've been a fan, you know, they may give you that offer, like a flat offer.
Now, I've noticed you mentioned routing a lot. You know, like most people don't realize. I mean, obviously, planning out a tour, planning out stops makes sense. But like, how integral is that to the process of reaching out to others? Because I would have imagined, you know, just as an artist going in blind, you know, just focusing on that city or that area would make more sense. But you mentioned that like you really have to like show them the full plan. Like, this is where I'm going, this is why I'm going in those places. And like I just didn't realize that was such a an important aspect of it, like showing each venue exactly where you're going. Like I knew ticket sales, like that makes sense, but like as an independent artist, that's just good to know. You know, if you're planning a tour, you really need to plan the tour.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the routing helps for many reasons. One, because they want to see, okay, what are the other venues you're playing? Some venues have like sister venues, so they'll be like, oh, we know the guys there. You know, if they're gonna book you, like, you know, we're going to book you. Or it could be like, okay, we want to see where you're coming from, because if they are agreeing to like maybe pay for your travel and stuff, they're like, okay, well, you come in from, we're in Seattle, you're coming from LA, or you're coming from New York. You know what I mean? So, and just also for yourself, it's beneficial to make sure you have your routing in order, because you can save a lot of money if you do it properly. Like it makes no sense to like do, you know, like a Seattle show and then go to New York and like then go back to San Francisco, and then like you want to keep it like East Coast, West Coast, like, and that's why a lot of artists, especially when they're independent and starting out, they'll be like West Coast tour, because it's like I can drive up and down the coast for a lot cheaper than it is to like fly 5 people across the country, you know. So they'll be like West Coast tour, or, you know, East Coast tour, or they'll do the whole thing, but they'll do it where it's like, okay, we're going to slowly make our way up the West Coast, and then maybe they'll take a flight to like, you know, wherever, Philly or something, and then they'll drive to like New York and all the other spots. So you have to just be careful, because like I said, like touring is very, very expensive, and there's ways that you can get around certain things and save money, but you have to remember, like, you're paying for everyone that's going, and you know, their rate, their day rate, and like their hotels and their travel and their per diem, like it adds up very quickly, very, very quickly.
Have you ever tried to like crowdfund anything? Like have you ever tried like to use the audience as the means of completing the tour? Like
I have done that.
Ooh.
I actually did that. So it was insane. I used to manage this girl named Avalon, and she was on American Idol. So she had like almost like a cult fan base. Like they were in love with her. And so their tweets would always be like, please come to Houston, please come to Columbus, Ohio, please come to, like every day. It's like, they're just saying the same thing over, like copy and paste, like, please come to Columbus. So it's like, okay. So she like, we kind of sat down and we're like, how are we gonna, like, we need to get to these places, but you know, she just got off the show. There's like no money. Like we were looking at certain label deals, but you know, like, how are we going to get to these fans before we lose their interest? Because of course the interest is fresh, because she just got off the show. Right. So we're like, okay, let's tell them what we need. So we'd be like, hey guys, you know, we're going to do a poll of the cities that we should go to, you know, and you can vote. So that's what we did. That's another thing you should do if you're independently routing your own tour. Use analytics from wherever, Facebook, Spotify, wherever, and find where your fans are, because why are you going to go to Nebraska if you have 3 fans there? You know what I mean? Like, go to places where you know you can sell merch and you can sell tickets, and people are going to want to meet up with you. People are going to want to do like the meet and greet, like before, after, like go to those places. So we would do that. So we do the poll, and then we would be like, okay, you know, these were the cities that people wanted to have me come to. I'm going to do a limited amount of tickets. And if we reach like if we reach the amount, then I'll release another 50 tickets or whatever. And we were pricing the tickets based off of like, okay, if we get this amount of money, that can pay for us to go there and do this and rent the space and do this. So like, we would do that, and we'd tell them like, you know, if we don't reach the amount, then like we can't come. So of course they're like, please. So like, they would even be like, I'm buying tickets for like my friends, cousins, this, like they were just trying to get the money to us. So we did all of that through, it wasn't crowdfunding. What was it called? Just through Eventbrite. So we just create an event. Yeah. And we sometimes, like, because luckily, like I said, this is how it comes in handy. Like, she can play guitar very well. So we were able to make all of these acoustic shows. So it kind of like, kind of like a so far sound thing. But we would rent, like, I remember, I think it was in, I can't remember.
Like, do like Airbnb?
It was Ohio. No, like I would just rent like a rec, like a rec center, or I'd rent like a dance room in like, because in these random places, like sometimes they didn't have like venues that could accommodate just like 150 people. It would be like really big venues or nothing. So, you know, I would rent like these random spaces, and just plan it out where it's like super intimate, like super So Far Sounds type. Like they sit on the floor and like circle it up, and she's playing guitar and singing, and then we have merch, and then you know, like we'll do a meet and greet. So like a part of them buying the ticket is like, okay, you get to like meet me and talk to me and take pictures with me, and, you know, get access to my merch. So also how we tried to make it exclusive is like we're not going to sell this merch online, because we'd always sell merch online. We're only going to sell it there. Yeah. So every place we did exclusive merch for that city.
Wow.
So then that would make them be like, oh my God, like what's the design for Columbus going to be? Or like, what's the design going to be for, you know, whatever, Atlanta, you know, like, so they were really, really excited. So some people would even just buy the ticket and they didn't live there just because they wanted to support, and then be like, asking one of the other fans, can you pick up like my merch shirt? Like, it was insane. Yeah. So that was the first time I kind of like created my own situation and used the fans as a way to just get on tour, you know?
That's really cool. So wait, so everybody received a shirt? Did I hear that correctly? Like if they got a ticket, I guess, or a specific package?
Well, yeah, I think we did different packages, but yeah, they were able to buy it if they were there. Like we didn't take order from other people. So like if, you know, if they live in California and they're like, oh, but I want the shirt from Ohio or like whatever, we didn't do that. So sometimes they would buy a ticket and be like, oh, I bought the ticket for the Ohio show, but like I obviously can't go, but like because I bought that ticket, because we'd only make the amount of tickets bought, you know? So yeah, then we'd be like, okay, well, yeah, you bought your ticket for this. So then, you know, like we didn't tell them to do that, but that's just what they started doing. So yeah, that was crazy because I've never been able to make that much money that quick. Like not personal money, but like money to fund going. Like, you know, we were able to pay for herself and myself to fly there and to put us up in an Airbnb, and then to rent the space and like whatever equipment that we'd need. And to pay for the merch, because the merch was expensive, you know, and to fly the merch, which was really expensive. So all of that through the fans.
Wow. Show specific merch, I'm like, I will always buy. I will always buy that shit.
As a fan, if you're really
as a fan, like posters that is just like, oh, this is the only venue you can get this poster. I'm like, yeah, I'm here. This is going to remind me all the time. Like I have so many of those posters. I have a Tame Impala poster when they performed at Red Rocks. And it's cool that they have this like incredible design. You know what I mean? It's so, not only does it look super cool, but every time I look at it, I'm just like reminded of that time that I saw them at the Red Rock Amphitheater. And I was just like, that's super smart.
Yeah. So
merch is such a way to connect, especially now with all the throwback tees being like, you know, the trend. Like I just think about, in 20 years, I'm going to have like my merch from like this Mac Ayers show, or like, you know, it's just like, you just remember the time, you remember the show, you remember the feeling of like seeing them live for the first time. It's just, I really like merch. That's why I like shows. It's just like the experience that you'll never forget. Plus like the merch, plus just like, you know, going and spending that experience like with friends or whoever, you know?
Yeah. Wait, so they do, I mean, so some venues don't take percentage of your merch, and some venues... Imagine them taking, you know, 30% of the tickets that people are paying to see you, and then they're taking 30% of your merch, and all the money that they're making at the bar, they give you like a small percentage. That's crazy.
Yeah. People definitely take percent. Usually like the more common percentages for merch are like 10 to 15 to 20. But like I've seen a 30-70 before.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Or sometimes they'll just have a flat fee, like, okay, $100 to sell merch at our venue or something like that. But it's like, if your merch is not worth that much, then like you're kind of losing out. So it depends.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah, because I saw a triathlon in Philly, and they were actually talking to the whatever the Philly venue I went to. I forget what the Foundry actually. Which is affiliated with the Fillmore venues. But yeah, they were like, "Oh, how much merch did you sell?" And apparently, they had to have sold a specific dollar amount of merch, and then the venue would take whatever percentage it was.
Yeah.
Which is really
people do that too. Like, okay, after you 1,000, then, we're taking money from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's true.
That's just good business.
How do they police that, though? Just wondering.
Yeah, I know. I did that at a venue before, and they said that, and I was like, well, I don't have any inventory of this, so.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, because it was like a ridiculous. It was like $150 for, I don't know. It was just something crazy. I still paid them, but I was just like, I'm going to not tell them about these extra 10 that we sold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy.
Yeah. Unless you give them an inventory beforehand, and then you're like, you just cut
and then they count
the inventory. Yeah.
You only have quote unquote 20 shirts.
Yeah.
Right.
You can get by.
Exactly.
It can happen.
Life hacks. Anyway, to kind of sum it all up, bring it all home, the live experience is comprised not of just the sound, obviously not just the sound. It's the feeling, the exclusivity, the engagement, the memory of being there. And the more you can do to create a memory, and create an experience for that specific person, make them feel like nobody else is going to experience this. I feel like the better time you'll have as far as planning for the shows, as far as actually getting people to come out, things like that. I feel like you'll be a lot more successful when you really just plan it out ahead of time and really be creative in how you make that unique for each listener or each city or things like that. So
that's why I really connect with shows and touring, and people, like I said, people are always like crazy, but for me it's like so much more personal, because I have been like, people have asked me like, oh, do you want to be an A&R? Would you like an A&R position? Or, and I always tell people, I'm really open to learning about being an A&R. Right. I feel like A&Rs are really talented, but for me personally, like my passion doesn't necessarily lie in, and this may sound crazy, but like my passion doesn't really lie in the creating of the music as much as it does in the creating of a live show. And I'll tell you why, because with the live show, I just feel like you are bringing the music to life, and you're bringing it in front of the people that are pretty much helping and funding your career. Like, and just seeing people sit in the front of your show singing every single lyric, where it's like you wrote that in your college dorm and now all these people are singing it, or like seeing people crying, or seeing people like literally shaking to take a picture with you, or like being so excited to like buy your merch, and they're like with their parents and they're like, Mom, can I please get the sweater and the hat and the sticker and the shirt? Like, like just that feeling is so, like, I love it. I love it. I love being a part of that experience, because every night, even though you've heard the set over and over and over, you've heard it through rehearsal, you've heard it in every city, it's like a different experience every single night. Like being able to see like these kids, or like whoever, these adults, these people like light up from hearing your songs that they maybe played when they were going through a hard time or through a breakup or whatever, and just having them just be so in the moment in that time. Like they could be anywhere. Yeah, you know how they're like, you could be anywhere, but you're here with me tonight. Like, that's so true. Like, you could literally be doing anything, but you're spending 3 hours and your money to be there and to watch this person perform like your favorite songs. I feel like that is so special. And I know growing up for me, that was something I always really loved doing. And my mom would take me to shows, and I even now I'm a fan. So when I go to shows, I'm like, this is like, I love it. I love it. So that's what's in it for me. And that's why I feel that's my favorite part of the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you found your calling, but no, I feel you 100%. Like, I remember me and Louise had a show for last year when we were part of the Selection North America tour. When we went to the last show in Toronto, I think that was the best show I've ever played. And it's because, I mean, there were a few different elements. There was, obviously, it was me and Louise, which was the first time that I've done that for Najee. Like it was like just adding that extra person, that extra energy to be able to riff off of, really, help just solidify and make me feel comfortable on stage. But then Toronto was just incredibly supportive. They were so hyped.
It was crazy.
Like, so I accidentally started, and I felt bad. I really felt bad for Francis, not because he wasn't killing it, but because when I did my set, I just randomly started this chant. I was like, everybody say Louise is a G. And it took storm. And throughout the entire evening, even throughout like Ferentz's set and Francis's set and Andre's set, like whenever like there was like a lull in their set, they were like, Louise is a G. I'm like, y'all, like we love y'all too, but like, damn, like chill.
That's amazing.
It was wild.
You see, that's like the power of like just them all coming together. Like I love that.
Yeah, and it was incredible.
It was cool.
And then we were in the crowd and like we were just moshing out with them, and it was such a fun vibe just to be able to like share that with them.
No, but that was crazy because like there were people like when they were coming up to us, it was just such a surreal experience. People were just like, yo, like, can I get a picture with you? And I was
like, you don't even know.
It was like, yeah. like, dog, this is like my first time on stage in Toronto. Like, what?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's surreal, right? And it's like it makes them feel good. They're happy to be there. It makes you feel good. Like it's just, I just feel like it's so positive. Like I really love it. I love it. And like even like that meet and greet part, you know, like you hear all kinds of stories like, oh, so I drove 5 hours to be here. Like, oh, like your album helped me get over this breakup, or like you don't understand. Like my mom loves your music and I put her onto this and that. Like, you know, like you just hear all these stories
I've been
and you're
that
just
dude.
like, wow. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I've totally been that too. And that's what I'm saying. Like when you see that from something that you created in like your apartment or your basement or your dorm or, you know, in the studio, whatever, you're just like, damn, like this is powerful and this has an effect.
For real.
Really
and I feel like that's the difference of like, you know, just like I said, like when you're creating and then like when you actually see the effect of it, like, wow, I put out this music, you know, it did what it did. And like, this is the effect. This is how people are receiving it. And that's just really rewarding. So
it's incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jasmine, for, you know, stopping by and just sharing some of that knowledge, dropping some knowledge and the experience.
Yes.
For all of those who are listening, again, this is Jasmine dropping.
Drop that.
I just she just dropped bombs.
Bombs of knowledge.
Wow, you know, just well done. But thank you.
I want my own channel. Even if I'm not there, record it.
We'll definitely get you a chant going. We gotta figure it out. We'll mull over, workshop it a bit, but you
put
know,
it to the set.
It'll definitely get there. But so for all those listening, just to bring it home, you know, if you're an artist who is trying to figure out, you know, what exactly you need to make like a tour work or make a show work, just, you know, really identify where your fans are, listen to them, you know, like look for them, like she was saying, you know, use analytics, use the data that you have. And just reach out to venues, reach out to anybody you can, and really plan the stuff out before time. And
plan before you reach out.
Plan the route. Out. Like it's you know, there's something to say about the punk zeitgeist and just being like, fuck it, bro, we just going. Like, but you really should plan.
Save the money.
And you know, as far as like finding the right manager, finding the right, you know, just relationship, take your time. It is a date. It is a relationship in your life. It, you know, platonic, yes, but it's definitely it is one of the most important relationships you'll have in your life, in your career. So you need to take the time to find the right person, suss them out, feel how things are going. You know, don't let anything be rushed. Don't let anybody like pressure you into being like, it's got to be this way or you need to do it. You know, it's a conversation. It's a constant back and forth and camaraderie of growth for both of you, and just putting your best, everybody's best interest, you know, first, but especially yours, and making sure that you're still enjoying your job. Everybody's enjoying what they do, you know, and that, as long as you always just make sure you keep those little checks and balances and just ask questions, you'll be fine, you know? Yeah. Ask, research, and thrive.
Experience.
Yes. And I love that closing. Yes.
So
beautiful.
What is our next episode, Louise?
So the next episode, I'm prepared this time. All right. Yes. Next episode, we're going to be talking about how to make your cat Insta famous. Yes.
Insta famous.
So that you can get that dough off of, you know, your furry little friend.
Profits.
They don't even have to do anything. That's the crazy part about Insta famous cats, is that the cat doesn't even know. They don't even care.
They don't care.
But, you know, you just, you know.
It's just straight, you know, manipulation.
You're just using them for your own personal gains.
So, yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for coming through, Jasmine. We appreciate you once again. Where can we find you?
Thank you so much,
Jasmine. On
the
interwebs? Like, where are your handles?
My handles are pretty much. Oh well, okay. My Instagram is just Collier, and then my Twitter is JA Collier.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
Simple. Wait, how do you spell Collier? Because some people might be troubled.
Oh, right. It's Collier. I know, like French spells it like COU or something.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yes, COLLIER.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Right. Well,
yes.
And if you have any questions for us, 1000 Story, hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at 1000 Story _. And that's an actual underscore, not the word underscore. I know nobody has clarified that yet, but some people are so fucking pedantic.
He said 1000 Story underscore.
I don't understand. I can't find it. And I'm like, breathe. So, 1000 Story _ and actual underscore. And if you want to find myself personally, I am at Mr. Najee Boy. That's MrNajiBoi.
And I am at El Pontillo. That's ELPONTILLO on Twitter and Instagram.
You know, hit us up, ask us questions,
yes,
comment.
Sir.
If you liked it, let us know. If you want to leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify, I don't know if you could do reviews on Spotify, but anywhere you can leave a review.
That would be cool, though.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
Apple Podcasts.
Oh, my gosh. That'd be incredible. Imagine a Spotify community. Like, just transfer everything over from SoundCloud. Woo. Like, use those followers. Anyway, YouTube, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think. And we will be back next episode. But until then, thank you for listening. Have a great night or day or, after.
Whenever you're listening to
Whenever you're listening to it. And this has been the 1000 Story Podcast.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.